Now, I'm not a betting man, but I would imagine that most guitarists have heard of Martin guitars, especially if you're more into your acoustics. You might think to join the illustrious ranks of Martin guitars that you need to drop quite a significant wedge of cash. I'm here to tell you today that that's not the case, because there is a range of guitars from Martin that you may have never heard of. This is the Road series. The Road series, to put it simply, is the best entry point to Martin guitars, especially for anyone who's looking to get any of those absolute iconic models that they've been releasing for hundreds of years at this point. You've got a pick of Dreadnoughts, Triple O's, JPs, and Martin's own SC model that they introduced a few years ago. Each are available in different ranges, identified by a number much like the core Martin range. Now, this video has been split up into chapters, much like most of our other stuff, so if there's a particular range or model you want to see, there are timestamps below and in the description below as well. There's a link to a blog that my buddy Ray wrote over on our website, so if you want to do a bit of reading to complement this video as well, do click that. But let's kick things off right away with the 10 series. The 10 series is the first step into the Road series, with its inspiration coming directly from one of the Martin core lines, and that being the 15 series, if you're familiar with those at all. And just to preface this video as well, if you do want to play the world's most boring drinking game, I am going to say series and range about a million times through this video, so again, apologies for that. I've got two models from the 10 series to show off today. The D-10e that's in my lap right now, there's a Triple O 10e behind me, and also an SC-13e, which I'll show very briefly, but we actually just did a full review on this guitar of the SC-13e on the channel, so you can click the link above my head if you do want to check out a more in-depth review of that. The two models in the 10 series that I've got with me today are both the Special options. Now that, for anyone who is unaware, is this dark wood that is available on that guitar behind me and this one in my lap. It's very, very similar to mahogany in the sense it's quite a dark and warm sounding tone wood. But if you do want a more traditional looking and a bit of a brighter sound, you can get a spruce top version of this guitar too. As I mentioned, the 10 series takes direct inspiration from the 15 series in the Martin core line. So it's going to be a much more kind of stripped down guitar, you know, no binding, no real flashiness to it. It's a bit more of just kind of a stripped down and subtle look to a guitar, which personally I'm quite a fan of, especially when, you know, it comes to the kind of more dark tone wood options. I quite like it when they just look quite bare and, you know, it's a bit more understated and a bit kind of, you know, not as flashy. All the 10 series also have a lovely matte finish to them across the body and the neck, so you're not going to find any sort of like excess stickiness if you're not a fan of glossy guitars. Now, the Triple O model shares a lot in common with the Dreadnought, obviously the main one being the Special back and sides on this. It's really, really good, you know, if you're keen on kind of those warmer tones, and especially with this body shape, it really just lends well for kind of nice, warm, kind of dark sounding finger picking, especially if, again, if you are into that kind of music. So as you heard in the sound example there, a much more kind of, you know, compressed and a bit of a darker tone from obviously this model here. But it is worth mentioning that there is no spruce top available in the Triple O 10 variety. So if you are keen on a slightly brighter tone, different look, you're going to need to go for the Triple O 12e, which is this model right here. Sporting a solid spruce top and actually a koa veneer back and sides, which has got this really kind of stunning wood grain to it. You're starting to see a little bit more kind of appointments put into these guitars, especially with the 12 series. So we have double black binding across the front and the back of the guitar. We've got a gloss body there while still retaining the matte neck. And I've also have these quite cool black tuners there, which kind of, you know, matches with the binding and again the slightly more kind of fancy appointments on this model. The main difference that you'll hear just in a second obviously being that spruce top there, but it's important to touch on the back and sides of this guitar, because what Martin actually do is they use their own layering technique when it comes to, you know, making these kind of non-all solid parts of these guitars. Not only do they have their own method of doing that, which, you know, gives these guitars a slightly more premium option as well, but they also use slightly more exotic woods. As I mentioned, koa has been used on this guitar, and you can also get zircot as well that is used on some of the other models. It's really important to say as well that the technique that Martin uses is vastly better than the high pressure laminate or HPL. You may have seen that when looking at some other more affordable acoustic guitars as well. It is just a more premium feature that Martin employ, and it just, you know, it works well with these guitars to just really make them sing. It's worth mentioning as well that Martin, primarily in all their Rhodes series, used the Fishman MXT pickup system, which not only sounds absolutely fantastic live, personally for me, and I think quite a few other guitarists who, you know, quite like acoustics, it removes that kind of big chunky control panel that maybe we're used to on electroacoustics for kind of years and years at this point, and it's nothing new that Martin haven't employed. Just to kind of see that, you know, become more standard across all their guitars is quite pleasant, to be fair. So your volume and tone controls are going to be up on the bass side here. And you also do have a sound hole tuner as well, which is just at the treble side of the strings there. So you can, you know, while you're playing live, it just kind of sort of looks like you're tuning normally on a pedal or something like that, but it also does cut your sound off too. So you really only need to take this in a cable to a show and you're totally ready. There are a few models, of course, that don't use the Fishman system, and one of those is actually this guitar right here. As I mentioned, the other model, other than the GP, sorry, get my J's and G's mixed up there. This is the SC model. Now this was introduced in 2020, and this is the special burst version of it. Now this comes loaded with an LR bag system, so it's a bit more of a premium pickup, and actually is what Martin use in their main kind of core model. So if you find like a D-10e or something, it's going to have an LR bags element in there too. So sound-wise, you're pretty similar to this. Now again, I won't touch too much on this guitar, or actually the SC-10 version here, because we have a few detailed sort of reviews on those if you want a wee bit more detail. But even just the cliff notes of them themselves, obviously this offset body is super new for Martin. It's really comfy. One of the kind of main sort of drivers of these guitars is that they're meant to play a lot like electric guitars. So they do actually have this access heel here, which you can get really high up on the fretboard for. You can make little micro adjustments, and actually the way they have been constructed too, you can kind of, you know, you can hit them a bit harder and they're not going to really distort kind of, you know, that natural distortion that acoustics can sometimes have if you're really going for it. And also when you're playing live as well, if you're going to a PA or an amp, there's not going to be much likelihood that this is going to feed back unless, you know, you're driving the gain really high or you're really close, because all of the bracing and the way that these have been designed are to counteract that. There is another number in the Rhodes series that unfortunately we don't have here in the studio today, but I will give you the cheat code to know exactly what that is, and that's the 13 series. Now, the main difference to that is obviously it's going to be kind of similar components, and you'll get a dreadnought version, you get triple O version, and you get the GP version of that as well. The main differences of those is that the binding is going to be, you know, that standard more cream sort of style. The real main difference of those being that they've got a cream binding and they have this absolutely gorgeous rosette in the middle along with the glossy body. It's quite sort of, they stand out a little bit more, just because we're getting a bit closer to that, you know, American-made Martin level, and you're starting to get much, much closer with the appointments here. So before we get into the inevitable who's it for question that we put into our videos, I think it's quite an important thing maybe just to touch on these guitars, in the sense that Martin, along with, you know, many other guitar companies, both electric, acoustic, bass, across the whole board, I just think it's really cool that they have this series of, you know, non-American made guitars. The Rhodes series are all actually crafted in Mexico, much the same as, like, you know, Fender's Player series or much of their Mexican series as well. It just allows anybody who's, you know, who's a fan of Martin, as I said at the start of the video, you know, anybody who's maybe had dreams of having a D-10e or, you know, D-45 or anything like that, they are, you know, they're luxury guitars. They're definitely up there in the price a little bit, and by all means, you know, they sound like they're expensive guitars and they're absolutely iconic. It just goes to really show that you can get something with the same name that still has the same principles and just does exactly perfect for your needs. For example, you know, for anybody who's like a 5-day-a-week gigging guitarist, certainly for me, I would be more likely to take out one of the Rhodes series, whether that be, you know, one of the D-13s or even just the D-10 or, you know, the triple O stuff if I'm fancying a slightly smaller guitar, because they all come with these super rigid gig bags, and you can, you know, you can jump on a bus, you can jump in your car, you can just throw the guitar into the boot and you can go to your gig without having to worry about, you know, your prized possession taking a couple of dings and a couple of knocks out there. They are workhorses. They're made to be played. They're made to get out and, you know, be played live or busking or anything you want to be. I think it's also just a really cool sort of, like, you know, it's a great entry point for anybody who's unsure of what Martin are. You know, you've maybe heard of the name, but you don't know what that involves, and you don't want to just jump in right at the deep end. Maybe you start with one of the Rhodes series and maybe, you know, play it for a little while, get used to it, see how it feels, and then, yeah, maybe graduate up to the next one. Or, you know, that might be absolutely perfect for you. There's no reason to say that you need to jump up to these super iconic core lines. Any guitar is good for anyone, so if it does exactly what you need it to, then what's to stop you touring the world with one of these? But what do you think? Have you tried any of the Martin Rhodes series guitars? Is this your absolute workhorse that you're beating at shows every single week? Let us know down in the comments. And of course, give us a like, give us a subscribe. That's, you know, through the grapevine, I think that might just help the channel. So why don't you give it a try and see what happens? For every single like on this video, I'll take one of your favorite guitars out on the road and I'll play it for 300 odd days. But until then, my name's Keiran. This is the Martin Rhodes series. Have a great day.